Order. This is meeting number 20 of the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics. Our order of the day, pursuant to Standing Order 108-3H6, study on allegations of interference in access to information requests. Our witness today from the Office of the Prime Minister, according to our agenda circulated and on the web, is Mr. Dimitri Soudis, Director of Communications from the Office to the Prime Minister's office. Colleagues, I have received the latest order. Colleagues, I have received this morning the latest report from the bailiff, from Mr. Fox, who is with the Kilray Bailiff and Process Services, who acted on behalf of the House of Commons in this regard. And Mr. Fox states, as of today's date, on June 9th and 10th, I attempted to contact Mr. Dimitri Soudis to make arrangements to serve the summons from the Standing Committee on Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics. I telephoned, spoke to a receptionist, identified myself, and informed her that I had a summons to serve on Mr. Soudis on both occasions. I was placed on hold both times for a short period, and when the receptionist returned, I was informed he was unavailable. I have yet to receive a return call from Dimitri Soudis or from his office, and am unable to effect service at this time. So, we do not have a witness today, and as we had discussed, we had a motion by Mr. Sixay that was tabled, and also a motion from Madam Freeman with regard to civil implications, and also a new timeline, as it were, in terms of making one final request for the witnesses to appear, the two witnesses actually, Madam Andrews and Mr. Soudis, on or before the 16th of June. We do not have a meeting on the 16th. Our last meeting would be the 15th, vis-a-vis that motion. And as a consequence, we are not going to be reporting to the House until the committee addresses this next Tuesday. However, I have circulated to all the committee members an updated synopsis, and it's really in the form of a report if the committee wishes. This was prepared by the Clerk's Directorate. The format is basically to simply provide the facts related to the non-appearance as would have been reported to us by the bailiff, as well as our own personal attempts. And it is really the last two paragraphs that are the operative ones. It simply indicates that in light of this matter, the non-appearance of witnesses, the committee has reason to believe that a potential breach of privilege has occurred. Your committee feels that it is their duty to place these matters before the House at this time, since a question of privilege may be involved, and give the House an opportunity to reflect on these matters. So, colleagues, the facts related to Mr. Togneri, Ms. Andrews, and Mr. Soudis have been laid out here in this one-page document, one-page report, as prepared by the clerk's office, with the last two lines being standard language that has been used from other committees in similar circumstances, so that we have a template that the committee could use should it wish to make a same or similar report on the matter before us now. On the agenda, you will note that we referred to this as the discussion of a draft report on the non-appearance of Sebastian Togneri, Gillian Andrews, and Dimitri Soudis. I am tabling or providing this to the members for purposes of that discussion, and to determine whether or not this template and these details satisfactorily reflect the views and the opinions of the committee members, with a view to making all final changes and have it ready for the committee in final form for next Tuesday, for final consideration should the witnesses not appear. Okay? So that is where we are right now. It's still on the first item. I would indicate I'd like to welcome the Honourable John Baird, who has been signed in as a member of the as a member of the committee. On this matter and the discussion of the, as we indicated, discussion on the draft report or the template or form of a draft report, I would like to have the members' opinions and instructions with regard to where we're going from here. I have a list, and Madam Freeman, would you like to defer until you look at that sheet? Mr. Sixay, then.
Thank you, Chair. And I think it would be helpful, Chair, if you made a clear, for the record, a clear declaration that Mr. Sudis hasn't appeared this morning as he was summoned. I'm not sure that I heard you say that, so I hope you will do that so that we're clear on the record that that he isn't here this morning.
Mr. Sudis isn't here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair, this is a very helpful draft, and it looks good to me. The one tiny point, minutia, is at the end of the paragraph dealing with Mr. Tonieri. It says, even if he was not duly discharged. I'm wondering if is the right word, maybe even though he was not duly discharged. Maybe that's an editorial change that could be made. Chair, I think it's a very, very serious issue that the committee has been thwarted in its attempts to have the people appear who have the information that we believe will be helpful to our study on political interference in the Access to Information Act. I think it's extremely troubling that Mr. Sudis isn't here. I think it's unfortunate that he's been told not to appear by his boss and by the government. And I think that we have to pursue this, and I believe that the template you've provided will be very helpful to us when we decide on this matter on Tuesday. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Madam Freeman, s'il vous plaît.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We note that Mr. Sudis is not here this morning. With the document that you have given us, it is helpful. I would note that it is extremely difficult and embarrassing for a parliament when a witness who has been summoned as of Tuesday to appear flies in the face of the law, all the laws that govern our country. I should say that before preparing this motion, I had worked with the House of Commons drafters to understand, the legal advisors to understand all the dimensions of the situation, which I think is a very peculiar and special one. I have worked with the clerk of the committee, and I would like to move that we hear Mr. Robert Walsh next Tuesday. He is the legal counsel to Parliament, and he will be able to explain all the legal consequences of a failure to appear before the committee. So the legal aspects, that will arise because of this failure to appear. I bring this up because I find this strange. We are in a strange situation, and Mr. Sudis is the employee of the Prime Minister. Mr. Sudis received a letter. In fact, Mr. Harper sent us a letter to say that his employee could not appear here on May 25th. There was also a statement made in the House on May 31st. Christian Paradis, the minister, sent a letter that Mr. Tenieri would not appear. And then we received a letter from Mr. Harper to say Mr. Sudis would not appear. On June the 8th, there was an attempt to summons Mr. Sudis that was not successful. So therefore I say that we as parliamentarians find ourselves in a very strange situation where the Prime Minister has an employee who is being summoned to appear before a committee, does not do so. We are aware of the concern for law and order of the government. Therefore, how can it be that a Prime Minister, directly or indirectly, does not incite his employee to appear before the committee? This is hindering justice, and this could also contravene 1391 of the Criminal Code that states that a person who voluntarily flies in the face of justice by not appearing. Therefore, not only is Mr. Dimitri Soudas and the other employees flying in the face in contempt of Parliament, but we have the consideration that is raised by 1391 of the Criminal Code to consider as well. Given these circumstances, I think Mr. Robert Walsh should appear here at the committee next Tuesday to explain to all colleagues here what the effect of the lack of appearance of Mr. Soudas, Mr. Tinieri, and Ms. Andrews will be. If they do not appear, even though they are summoned, it would seem that this can represent an obstacle for justice under the terms of 1391 of the Criminal Code. I thank you, Chairman.
On the motion certainly is in order. And I want to, Madame, I want to be sure. You said to report on the effect of the non-appearance and consequences. I'm not sure Mr. Walsh would be in a position, nor would he be advisable for him to make or to speculate what might happen should the House deal with this. And in fact, as we discussed at the last meeting, at the last meeting, as I had indicated to you, that this committee will not be making any determinations as to whether or what the circumstance. It is up to the House to make that. We have no authority to do sanctions or to censure any person, any member or witness. And that's why we have to report to the House. One option I would suggest, Madam Freeman, is that if you wish, we certainly could have Mr. Walsh provide us with a summary of the possible impacts. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to help the committee with its report. But I want to go back to you so that you can respond. I see that you would like to.
I think, Mr. Chairman, that with all the respect that I do have for you, that I've had the possibility of discussing with the legal counsel at length in preparing my motion, and I have spoken to them again. They shed a great deal of light on the issue for me, because there are many possibilities. I'm not going to set them all out to you, but I think that it's essential for Mr. Walsh to appear here to explain all the possibilities here. We don't just want a report. We want to be able to have him appear as a witness. Because the Sergeant of Arms, there are a variety of avenues to be explored, even the Sergeant of Arms going out to get Mr. Soudas. So Mr. Walsh can explain all of these things. It's not a matter of speculation. It is the law. These are things that absolutely must be explained to us by Mr. Walsh when a witness does not appear. I know the procedures. I know all the possibility of what can happen to execute this matter. This is what he can deal with. It's not just Parliament that is being challenged here. Here we're actually entering into criminal code territory, and the two are related. This has not been presented. Rather, this was presented this after meetings with the legal counsel and with the drafters for the motion. We have to be very aware precisely what the situation is. I know the terms of the motion, and I know the consequences of the non-respect of my motion. I do not think that this committee cannot have Mr. Walsh appear. He should appear here to explain all the consequences and the nature of the situation. Mr. Walsh, the law clerk, will be able to help us in that way.
Mr. Walsh, it's not to explain what we can do, but what the House can do. And okay.
I have to interrupt again. I'm sorry.
Sanction or to recommend that someone be put in jail or whatever. We referred to the House. Mr. Walsh will, I understand you clearly. Mr. Walsh will be able to tell you that you could send the, say, for instance, the sergeant at arms to go and get him and bring him to the bar, and he would have to answer questions in the House and all these things. That's what you want, I think.
No, with all the respect that I have for you, Mr. Chairman, maybe I will speak a little bit more slowly because the translation was not following what I have just said. Perhaps I should speak a bit more slowly to allow for the interpretation. But what I have just said, that in preparing my motion, I asked the law clerk to give me information about the nature of the consequences that witnesses would have to face who, when summoned, do not appear. I prepared my motion with the law clerk, with the clerk of the committee, with legal counsel. Now, with Mr. Walsh, we know that there would be legal consequences, but Parliament as well. We cannot disassociate the two aspects. Now, Parliament has the summons, but there's also the legal aspect. And there is contravention of the criminal code. Mr. Walsh should appear. Let him come here to explain. At present, we cannot speculate if we haven't heard the witness.
Merci. Madam Speaker, merci.
Madam Speaker, thank you.
Why not? All right. Madam Davidson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we are on the motion, but it is related to the subject matter.
We are on what motion?
The motion just made by Madam Freeman that we've been discussing for a little while here. That
Well,
Mr. Walsh.
I'm sorry, but I don't know what that motion is.
I thought we were discussing.
I thought we were discussing this.
Yes, we are, but during her intervention, she made a motion that we hear another witness, Mr. Walsh, with regard to the implications, and she feels that we need to know a little bit more about the consequences of failure to appear, which may affect
Then, Mr.
what our
Chair,
report
if we
has.
are debating a motion, I need to see that motion, or at least to hear it clearly.
Okay.
Or at least
Order.
to hear it clearly. Pardon?
On n'a pas besoin de...
Madam.
Already been through the thing about oral motions, but
and that's why I said, or hear it clearly from the mover.
No,
please.
I will tell you what it is. She had the.
Are those your words or her words, Mr. Chair?
I'll tell you what the motion is that the clerk wrote down here.
That would be wonderful.
Sure.
Thank you.
That the committee call Mr. Walsh, the law clerk, to explain to the committee the consequences of failure to appear or on our summons.
The consequences of what?
Failure to appear before a committee or.
Gee whiz,
refuse
maybe the clerk hasn't got it written down.
Well, but.
Amazing. Could you please read your motion to me, Ms. Freeman?
That's exactly what the chairman has just said. That is what my motion is.
Walsh, as another witness next Tuesday.
We want to hear Mr. Walsh at this committee so he can explain the consequences related to the non-appearance of a duly summoned witness by this committee at the committee. We have a law clerk who's a specialist who would be able to appear here to give us an explanation with respect to the consequences of non-appearance at the committee.
Okay, I had my name on the speaker's list not to speak to a motion which I did not even hear being made. I had it on to speak to this, so I will pass till we come back after the motion.
Mr. Poilievre, please.
Yes, I'd like to. I'm going to be proposing an amendment to the report that you have tabled before the committee, and it would apply
we're on a motion of Mr. Walsh appear. Could we have all the speakers on that motion? It's pretty straightforward. She wants to call another witness, Mr. Walsh. Could we? Is there anybody else who wants to speak on Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, I understand that witness lists are generally done at the subcommittee chair.
No. Witnesses can be proposed by the committee members at any point, but subject to, obviously, the approval of the committee. But Madam Freeman believes that this may affect her suggestions as to what this report may include. Maybe
perhaps we could just have the subcommittee deal with that motion.
Well, perhaps we could just deal with the motion if I put the question.
I don't think that it's appropriate to change the rules at this
stage.
No.
If there's no one else who wishes to speak to that motion, who wants to speak to the motion? Mr. 6A, I had Mr. Baird, and then I had Madam Foote.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm not sure that I can support this motion. I don't believe that we need further advice from the law clerk on the consequences of this. I think our job is to report what's happened, and what's happened is that these witnesses have failed to appear, have refused to appear, have been instructed not to appear. And I think that's what that's all that we need to know, and frankly, for this next step. I know that the chair, I believe, has had conversations with Mr. Walsh over the course of this problem, and I don't believe that having a meeting where he comes to tell us consequences is particularly helpful at this time.
Okay, Mr. Baird, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the warm welcome here and your professionalism. I appreciate it. I mean that very sincerely. I want to speak to the motion of my esteemed colleague, Madame Freeman, by saying that rather than have the law clerk of the Parliament come before the committee, rather than that, what should happen is the committee could actually accomplish the goals that it set out. It wants to hear from the Prime Minister's office with respect to practices and procedures with respect to access to information. I think you're well aware, Mr. Chair, that the government made a statement, the government House Leader made a statement in the House acknowledging that our government fully recognizes the authority of parliamentary committees to call for persons or papers as they carry out their work. However, ministers are accountable and answerable to Parliament for government policies, decisions and operations, and ministerial staff are accountable to their ministers. So if anything, there is an attempt, I think, to strengthen accountability by having ministers take full responsibility for the actions of their members of their political staff in their office. And as you're well aware, as you've mentioned, Mr. Chair, the Prime Minister has sent a letter to the Clerk of the Committee on June 1st saying that he's pleased to assist the committee in its work. As you know, Prime Ministers don't normally appear before parliamentary committees. The Prime Minister has asked me to appear before this committee and answer any and all questions that members may have with respect to the study that they're undertaking. I am keen and enthusiastic to answer all questions that any member of the committee would have with respect to the access to information and the important priorities that we put. I mean, there is a policy and an expectation from the Prime Minister very directly to all of his ministers that we fully and completely follow the Access to Information Act. In fact, that was one of the first instructions that he gave in orally and in writing.
Point of order. I understand.
No, sorry, Mr. Easter. Madam Freeman had indicated she wanted a point of order. I wanted to hear a little bit more But excuse me, Minister, I'm going to have to take the point of order.
No problem at all, Mr. Chair.
Madam Freeman, on a point of order.
Vous savez, Monsieur le Président,
You know, Chairman, how I'm always happy to see Mr. Baird at our committee. But we have already discussed all these matters. It has been discussed on several occasions. Mr. Baird came. We explained to him that we certainly very much appreciated his presence, but he couldn't talk about what was happening in the Prime Minister's office because he didn't work there. So we come back to the issue. It's useless, it's argumentative, it is not useful.
There's others who don't quite understand what's happened here. The Minister and I had a very good conversation yesterday, and he indicated that he wanted to, certainly wanted to have, one way or another, an opportunity to discharge his responsibilities, to do his job, and to have an opportunity to address the committee. The committee has already, as you well laid out, Madam Freeman, that we are following the rules of the House as we understand them, and as they have been unchanged by the ministerial statement, and also have the understanding that it is going to be up to the House to make a resolution of this, and it's not for us to decide. Now, the Minister and I agreed that we've, the Minister's here today. He has not insisted to sit there as a witness. He, in fact, has been replacing another permanent member on the committee. He actually is signed in as a participating member of the committee now, not a visiting like Minister Paradis came as another person in addition to all the permanent members, and then when all of those members didn't speak, no other permanent member spoke, then your visitor could have an opportunity. In this case, the Minister thought it would be more efficient for his time rather than having to wait for a full 2-hour meeting to be over before he had a chance to speak, that he has, one of his colleagues has allowed him to be signed in. And he's put his name duly on the list, and it is his time to speak. No, just a moment. He is speaking to the motion which is related to the to our study, and it's relevant for him to raise his points of view with regard to that. But he is not going to be asked questions. He is like yourself, Madam Freeman. He is a member at the table participating in debate on a motion. Okay? So don't worry about him asking questions, okay? No. Okay. Now, secondly, I've dealt with it, so it was not a point of order. You were concerned about him getting asked questions. I'm going to go to Mr. Easter, please, on a point of order as well.
No, I'm not concerned about him getting. We're not going to ask him questions because he's not here
as a witness,
representing Mr. Sudis. Right. As I understand it, Mr. Sudis we'll deal with that in a motion, but. Or in the report, but my point of order was to relevance related to Madam Freeman's motion. What the Minister of Transport seems to be doing is taking his opportunity to speak to push the propaganda out of the Prime Minister's spin machine, and this is not the place for that. If he wants to talk relevance on the motion, then that's fine. But I don't think his discussion was relevant to the motion on Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. The point of order was on relevance. And colleagues, I have to be consistent. I have to be fair. At our last meeting, Minister Paradis was here, and he also spoke to a motion that we were dealing with, and he spoke about political staff appearing and moved on to the policy statement that the government House leader had presented to the House a couple of Tuesdays ago. It is very difficult to separate the policy statement of the government from what we're doing now. They're inextricably linked. It's clear. And I don't think that the ministerial statement is unknown to anybody, but it is relevant, and I'm going to rule that that the point of order is not is in fact not correct, and I'm going to. Mr. I think he wants on the point of order. Did you have a point of order, or would you like the minister to finish his intervention here?
I think we'd all like to hear from the minister.
Minister, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So as I was saying, rather than support Madame Freeman's motion, I think it would be better to focus on the specific task before the committee, which is concerns with respect to access to information. The Prime Minister invites accountability. We welcome accountability. He has asked me to represent him at this meeting, and I am prepared to fully respond to any questions that people have on the task before the committee, rather than simply delay it.
Minister, I apologize. I'm going to have to take a point of order from Madam Clerk, please.
Mr. Chair, this really is an abuse of the committee. I have to say we have a motion on the floor that's dealing with whether or not Mr. Walsh is going to appear before this committee. Yeah. That is the substance of the motion. It is not what happened in the House. It is not what the government has done. It is not the fact that they're refusing to allow people to appear before this committee as witnesses, people who we have every right to talk to and ask what happened in terms of whether or not they in fact acted, whether or not they broke the law, as we know Mr. Togneri did.
Okay.
The point here for us is to speak to the substance of the motion.
Okay. Madam Foot, that's debate. It's not a point of order. And I would indicate that the minister is making an argument. His last statement was that rather than doing this, we should be doing something that he feels is more. That's relevant to why he's not going to support the motion. That's his argument. That's why we're in debate. And if I don't rule that way, then all of a sudden our practices and traditions are going to be undermined. Members have a lot of latitude on what they say in terms of using their time to make argument for or against. And I'm not going to, I don't judge members on the quality of their argument, but I do encourage all members to work as hard as they can to be relevant to the matters before this committee right now. So, Minister, you have the floor again.
Thank you. I'll just confirm, Mr. Chair, that I'll speak for another 2 minutes, and then I'll yield the floor. So rather than engage in a long discussion with respect to calling additional witnesses, I think the committee's focus is on ensuring the integrity of the access to information process and the government's compliance with it. The Prime Minister has asked me to come. I'm prepared to speak at great length rather than hear Mr. Walsh to the practices, policies and procedures and specific circumstances in the Prime Minister's office or the Privy Council office. There's a clear precedent of ministerial accountability, and we welcome that. We don't shirk from it. We're prepared to respond to any and all questions in this regard. I think one of the cornerstones of our parliamentary democracy is ministerial accountability, and one of the other cornerstones, Mr. Chair, of our system of parliamentary democracy is the House of Commons must place its confidence in the government each and every day. Just on Tuesday, the House of Commons voted confidence in the government after Mr. Hill made his statement. So I'm here to answer any and all questions, to be fully accountable. I look forward to them, Mr. Chair, and I'm always available to work constructively and cooperatively with you.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Okay, the member is finished. Madam Freeman, on a point of order.
Actuellement, Monsieur Baird.
At the present time, Mr. Baird, who is signed on as a member at this committee, just like you or me, is using his seat to speak as a minister and to make ministerial statements. That's not his role at the present time. Right now, he is using his seat as a member to speak as a witness, and he is usurping rights. He is trying to do indirectly what he cannot do directly. We can't hear him as a witness, but he's doing it anyway. He's using his status here is as a member, but he cannot try to be a witness making a statement. He is trying to do indirectly what he cannot do directly, and therefore I object.
Freeman. The members of Parliament have rights at committees. And the minister has appeared and he's used his time creatively in a way to at least get his message out. But he is not here as a witness. He's made a statement. He's reflected his views on this motion and his non-support for it, because he argues that there should be there is other aspects of what we're doing that would be more useful. That's his opinion. I am not going to judge the quality or the propriety of making those conclusions. The member is signed in, and you know, members can use their time in a fashion that they feel. But I'm not at this point prepared to say that it's not relevant. As a matter of fact, Madam, I actually ruled that the point of order on relevance was not accepted, and that I believe that there was sufficient relevance. So why don't we move on? I have four more speakers on the motion, the Madam Freeman's motion with regard to calling Mr. Walsh as a witness for next Tuesday. They are Madam Foote, Mr. Hoback, Monsieur Plamondon, and Mr. Easter. So, Madam Foote, please.
No,
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Point of order. I had placed myself on the list long ago.
You've been on the other list.
I think when I asked...
No. Immediately at that time...
And it wasn't a point, or he went... Okay. Now...
No.
You know, I can duck and say I don't keep the list. It's the clerk, and I can blame him, but I won't blame him. What I want to do is make sure that all members who want to be heard, be heard. We must have misunderstood your positioning of which motion. Your name is first on the list, back on the discussion of the draft report.
Isn't mine?
No, I actually put my name forward for this particular subject, so it would have to be moved over from first on that to first on this.
Could you please put Mr. Polyev here? We'll take it. And would you like to remain on the other list for the main list? Not
Yes.
right now?
Yes, but when I put my name on the list, it was the first on this list, not the first on that one.
Understood. Okay. Madam Foote, excuse me. I'm going to correct my error then. Mr. Polyev, then Madam Foote, then Mr. Hoback, Mr. Plamondon, and Mr. Easter on the motion of Madam Freeman. Please.
I'll begin with an amendment to Madam Friedman's motion, and the amendment as follows. There seems to be an amendment that you might be interested in hearing about, and this amendment is right now Madam Friedman has proposed that the committee call Mr. Rob Walsh, and my amendment changes the name Rob Walsh and replaces it with Minister John Baird. Now I'm going to begin by speaking to my amendment, Mr. Chair. I'm going to read Chapter 1 of Parliamentary, chapter entitled Parliamentary Institutions. This is in the House of Commons Procedure and Practice Book, second edition, 2009.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Apologize. Another member has called a point of order.
Okay.
And I'll have to deal with that, as you know, okay? Madam Freeman,
Monsieur Zabot, ce que Monsieur Poiliev...
What Mr. Poiliev, on a point of order, is presenting is a proposal that's got nothing to do with the motion on the table at the present time. It's totally different. It's something else. It has no link with the main motion. No link with the main motion.
all right. We have spent... Excuse me.
You can't change the name of the witness.
Would you turn that mic off over here? Okay. Sorry. No. Just a moment. Just a moment. in my experience, we're just entering into a period of time which ultimately does not get the committee any productivity. It's probably not helpful. Multiple points of order, amendments all over the place on various things. The members, I think everybody around this table knows exactly where this is going, and I think that we should step back a sec here and try to figure out what the deliverable is from our committee. I want, by the end of this committee meeting, to have some sort of a consensus on a template or draft report for the committee, so that when we have finished with all witnesses and the 15th of has come and gone, and we know for certainty what the facts are, that we would be in position to have a vote on a final report and an instruction to the chair to table it in the House. Now, I can tell you, Madam Freeman, that you made a motion to call Mr. Walsh and made your argument why it's important for him to be there. And I suspect that every member around this table could come up with another name that would be just as interesting or relevant to the committee with regard to this study. And they can either make their own motion, we can hear yours out and have a vote on it, and then somebody else will make a motion that they want to hear from the minister and have a debate on that. And once all of that happens, it will be 1 o'clock and we will have accomplished nothing. So I'd like to hear from the committees. If we're going to filibuster and we're going to play games and not get any work done, I think the members ought to just save everybody the time now and let's just adjourn the meeting. Okay? But if members want to get on to the substantive work that we have to do, if it's so serious, if everybody's saying it's so serious, then we better treat it seriously with the regard to points of order, with regard to more witnesses, with regard to amendments, with regard to all of these very valid ways in which you can disrupt a meeting. We only have 2 more meetings left, this one and 1 more. That's it. If we get this draft motion concurred in terms of the substantive content of it and the direction of the committee, we will wait until Tuesday. We'll know what happens, whether or not anyone agrees to appear of the witnesses that Madam Freeman made in her prior motion, and then we will entertain a motion that whether or not whether or not the just a moment. I will get to you just after I'm finished, okay? No, Madam, no, sir, I understand that. I understand that. Just a moment. I have a responsibility to try to maintain order and decorum and keep the committee moving in the right direction. Let me finish. We have 2 meetings to go, and these are the consequences. We passed a motion, Madam Freeman's motion, at the last meeting, that the witnesses be asked to appear no later than June 16th, next Wednesday. We don't meet on Wednesday. We meet on Tuesday. So presumably, once we have our meeting on next Tuesday, and if there are no further witnesses that had been summoned appear, then the report that we have before us, should it be agreed upon, would be in a position we could deal with it at the meeting on Tuesday, and authorize the chair to table the report in the House, which could happen on the Wednesday or Thursday. If we call a bunch of witnesses, and we have 1 being proposed now to have Mr. Walsh for next Tuesday, and there are more witnesses, we will never get around to talking about a report to the House. Okay? And that all of the work that we will have done will not be able to be reported to the House by next Thursday, which I understand is possible. The House may rise on Thursday, which means that this whole matter and all the work that has been done by this committee will have to sit and not be finalized until the fall. We return in the fall. If that's the will of the committee, we're on the right track to make that happen. Okay, so I'm simply, and Madam Davidson and to other members, all I'm doing is saying I've seen this before. I know the route that we're on right now, and anyone who continues down that route, their intent is basically that they don't want to have this reported to the House, and that would be an interpretation, a valid interpretation by any observer. So, Mr. Polyev has the floor, and he has proposed an amendment to Madam Freeman's motion that we call Mr. Walsh, and he's proposed to say rather than calling Mr. Walsh, he would be more interested in calling the Minister of Transport to appear. So that's where we are, and now I'm going to stop, and now we're going to see how many points of order and other things that we're going to have. Okay, so where are we, Mr. Clerk?
Madam Davidson.
Madam Davidson was first.
Point of order.
She called on a point of order.
I did, Mr. Chair. I called a point of order. It was the fact that I was not allowed to speak on this document that was circulated to us. You were. That was my point of order. Why you could go ahead and speak on the issue that was not before us, which happens to be the motion. You've explained your point. Carry on.
Thank you. Mr. Easter, on a point of order, sir?
Yes. Well, really, point of clarification, Mr. Chair.
Well, I don't think there's such a thing.
On your remarks, you said there is a motion on the floor that I think we're giving Ms. Andrews and Mr. Sudis till next Wednesday.
No, that's not on the floor.
No, it's not on the floor, but that's the motion that's already passed. Yes. You said in your remarks that we would deal with that next Tuesday, which is really a day ahead of the motion. Are we not meeting next Thursday? Like, I really think, I think rather than get into the business of having a motion on the floor which says the 16th, that we really, in fairness, have to do that on the 17th, not on the 15th. I mean, this is probably to the government's advantage, but I think that's been fair to the witnesses and the motion that we already passed. I can't see finalizing this report, and I want to talk on that later, but I can't see finalizing on this report a day before the motion when they're supposed to appear. I really think we ought to do it on the 17th.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
point of clarification.
Indeed.
Okay. It was discussed at the last meeting, and because the committee does not, we do meet on the 17th. We have Mr. Nicholson, Justice Minister, appearing before us. The motion passed, Madam Freeman's motion, was that those people appear before the committee on or before the 16th, next Wednesday. Is that correct? Next Wednesday. Since the committee doesn't meet Wednesday, the immediately preceding meeting of the committee would be on the Tuesday. So if they don't appear on Tuesday, then they will not have appeared before the committee, even if they wanted to, because we don't meet on the Wednesday. I don't know why the date of the 16th, but once if they don't appear on Tuesday, there's no way they can satisfy the motion, and then we could finalize the motion on the Tuesday, because nothing will change on Wednesday, because we don't meet unless the committee would like to arrange a meeting on the Wednesday to see if they would come. So so that's just an explanation, We've talked about this at the last meeting, that we will not be able to report until we not finalize our report until Tuesday to see whether or not either of the two witnesses appear. Next on... Okay, Mr. Polyev has the floor. He has proposed an amendment that we replace Mr. Walsh by Mr. Baird.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order for Mr. Plamondon. Excuse me, sir.
Vous n'avez pas statué sur la liste.
You didn't rule on the admissibility of Mr. Poilievre's amendment. You didn't say whether or not it was in order. I think it's out of order because it totally eliminates the witness that we wanted to hear. So I think that Mr. Poilievre should have proposed, or rather moved, a new motion that someone else be heard. And I believe that you should rule his amendment out of order because it does not amend, it eliminates.
He could. I think I addressed that. In my comments, that he could make another motion, or he could his amendment could be after Mr. Walsh and Mr. Baird. So that would be an amendment. It's kind of moot if the committee is. By virtue of that, I call for debate. I believe, sir, that his motion is in order, but it's only because he would have to make an argument that the substitute would be able to satisfy or advise the committee with regard to some of the consequences, and probably in the context of a government policy statement. Mr. Poilievre, you still.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Another point of order?
I believe you wrote.
No, I accept the debate on the amendment.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The amendment is based on hundreds of years of parliamentary tradition, and I cite as my source for that argument the House of Commons Procedure and Practice, 2nd edition, 2009, edited by Audrey O'Brien and Mark Bosk. You'll know that the name Audrey O'Brien is very well known and held in extremely high regard around the parliamentary precinct, as she continues to be a servant to Parliament to this day. And I might add, with the unanimous confidence of parliamentarians. On page 32, Chapter 1, titled Parliamentary Institutions, subtitle Responsible Government and Ministerial Responsibility, I quote, "In a general sense, responsible government means that a government must be responsive to its citizens, that it must operate responsibly, that is, be well organized in developing and implementing policy, and that its ministers must be accountable and responsible to Parliament." It goes on, "In terms of ministerial responsibility, ministers have both an individual and collective responsibility to Parliament." This is entirely pertinent to the witness I wish to call.
I want you to understand that although your amendment changed the name, the rest of the motion still, and the motion, the end of the motion is to explain the consequences of the witness's failure to appear before the committee. And the argument should not be anything to do with policy of the government, etc. It should be with regard to why your proposed witness would be able to do that, which has been asked for by the motion. And I suggest to you, sir, that to go outside of the expertise to explain to this committee about the legal ramifications would not be in order. It would be not relevant to the debate on the motion, on the amendment to the motion as presented. Okay. So, just to caution you that you're straying beyond the scope of the motion. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My comments have and will continue to focus on the conduct of political staff members and the importance of ministerial responsibility for that conduct. that is entirely pertinent to this motion. And if committee members disagree, then they will discard my arguments. I'm going to quote continually the rules as they are written. The individual and personal responsibility of the minister derives from a time when in practice, and not just in theory, the Crown governed. Ministers merely advised the sovereign and were responsible to the sovereign for their advice. The principle of individual ministerial responsibility holds that ministers are accountable not only for their own actions as department heads, but also for the actions of their subordinates. It's worth reading that again. The principle of individual ministerial responsibility holds that ministers are accountable not only for their own actions as department heads, but also for the actions of their subordinates. Individual ministerial responsibility provides the basis for accountability through the system. Virtually all departmental activity is carried out in the name of the minister, who, in turn, is responsible to Parliament for those acts. Again, virtually all departmental activity is carried out in the name of the minister, who, in turn, is responsible to Parliament for those acts. We are Parliament in this committee. And it is ministers who are accountable to Parliament, according to the rules. Ministers exercise power and are constitutionally responsible for the provision and conduct of government. Parliament holds them personally responsible for it. The principle of collective ministerial responsibility, which is of much more recent vintage, evolved when ministers replaced the sovereign as the decision makers of government. Ministers are expected to take responsibility for and defend all cabinet decisions. The principle provides stability within the framework of ministerial government by uniting the responsibilities of individual ministers under the collective responsibilities of the Crown. That latter point explains why Minister Baird is here to explain the conduct of a member of the Prime Minister's office. Under the principle of collective responsibility, he, as a minister, a servant, is responsible in our system to defend the conduct of subordinates in this government. He's been so designated by the Prime Minister, who makes those designations by historic convention. This is the foundation of our democratic system of government, Mr. Chair. It is not something that can be thrown away at a whim or dispensed with when a coalition of parties who, through their numbers, seek to undermine it in order to score a few short-term and myopic political points. Now, in the aftermath of the 2008 election, coalition parties attempted to reverse the results of that vote. Now we are seeing them attempt to reverse the results of roughly 300 years of parliamentary tradition and replace it with a kangaroo court that would intimidate political staff members whose responsibilities to this House flow through the ministers.
Order. Order.
Fair enough, Mr. Chair.
Madam Freeman, would you come to your seat, please?
If I could just make a correction.
Order, please. Order.
Mr. Chair.
Turn the mic off. Mr. Polyev, I've been really patient, but when someone starts to reflect and judge us as a group time and time again as a kangaroo court, it's unacceptable, it's unparliamentary. I've heard enough from you, sir. I've heard enough of your argument, and we need to move on. And
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
That's my decision.
Point of order.
That we are moving on to the next person.
Point of order.
No.
Point of
No.
order, Mr.
No.
Chair.
We're moving on to the next person.
Mr. Chair, I do have a point of order, which does interrupt the proceedings, and I think that you'll find my remarks will soothe the discussion. I promise to keep them very short.
Mr. Polyev has rights. Point of order, sir.
Mr. Chair, things get heated around here, and a moment ago I referred to this committee as a kangaroo court. I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to kangaroos everywhere for that terrible insult.
Thank you. Mr. Baird, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate your wise helmsmanship of the committee. I think if on the speaking directly to the amendment presented by the member for Nepean Carleton, if it were to pass, what we could discuss at the next meeting is John Baird could discuss access to information, procedures and practices in the Prime Minister's office. He's been asked by the Prime Minister to come forward to speak to these issues, and if Mr. Polyev's amendment were to pass, he could talk about the first book that we're all handed, Accountable Government. Right after you're sworn in, within 3 hours, the Prime Minister presented each of us with one of these books, and it specifically deals with access to information, one part, page 40, and our responsibilities and roles. It's very clear on page 40 on access to information, and if this motion were to pass, Mr. Baird could speak to this. It talks about the public's access to information and privacy. It speaks about the Act and about the responsibilities that ministers have. In the case of the witness that in question, Mr. Sudas, the Prime Minister has asked me to attend, as the Prime Minister does not normally attend parliamentary committees. And if that amendment were to pass, we could specifically talk about the clear direction that the Prime Minister has given, that the Access to Information Act must not just be followed, it must be followed judiciously. And that's the direction that he has given, not just to his ministers, but indeed to all of his staff, as has been reported in previous committees. So the Prime Minister, the government welcomes accountability. We welcome transparency. We're here to offer up to members of the committee that will answer any and all questions about policies and about specific practices on a specific occasion. That's why I support Mr. Polyev's amendment.
Mr. Still have two members who want to speak. Mr. 6A and yourself, Mr. Easter. I think I'd like to hear from Mr. 6A.
Thank you, Chair. I want to speak against the amendment, and in doing so, I want to quote from the Prime Minister's letter to the committee, speaking against the amendment of Mr. Poiliev that Mr. Baird's name be substituted for Mr. Walsh's name. I want to quote from the Prime Minister's letter to the committee dated June the 1st, where the Prime Minister notes, he says, as is stated in Accountable Government, a guide for ministers and ministers of state at page 37, and he quotes, ministers and ministers of state are personally responsible for the conduct and operation of their offices, end quote. Given that Mr. Baird isn't Stephen Harper, Mr. Baird can't be responsible for what's gone on in the Prime Minister's office or the actions of Mr. Sudas, and therefore I'm not prepared to hear from Mr. Baird on this issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for your conciseness. And finally, Mr. Easter.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and just a couple of quick points. What we're seeing here through this motion is clearly really filibustering of the committee, but I do want to come back actually to the same point that the bill made, and that is from the Prime Minister's letter as well, and I quote the same line, ministers need to understand clearly that they are accountable, responsible, and answerable for all the actions of their exempt staff. We've had Mr. Togneri before this committee, who clearly admitted that he pulled back access to information. I wonder why his minister, you know, this government has a habit of blaming staff, and now they've moved to a different strategy. But I wonder why Mr. Togneri is still there, or why his minister is still there if they're clearly accountable. But Mr. Chair, to try and move on to what the motion really was before we get diverted here, I would call the question.
Okay. I have no further members on the amendment, so I'll put the question on the amendment by Mr. Polyev to substitute the name of Mr. John Baird for Mr. All those in favor of the Polyev amendment? All those opposed to the Polyev amendment? And the chair is opposed. It's defeated. We are now back to Madam Freeman's motion that we call Mr. Walsh to explain to the committee consequences of failure to appear in all its glorious detail. Colleagues, we've had, in my view, already a lot of debate. I've taken note of the points already made, and I will be encourage members not to be repetitive of debate or points already made, so that we can move quickly to a vote on the question or the motion of Madam Freeman. So, Madam Foote, do you have anything further to add to the debate?
Mr. Chair, this committee has been frustrated every which way by the government. The fact that we cannot have our witnesses in front of us that we called on because the government has refused to allow them to be here. I think it's important that we have every opportunity that we can have to make sure that we do our work and do it properly. I support Ms. Freeman's motion. I think we should have Mr. Walsh here because when you have a witness, the point is you get to ask questions of that witness. And I think we can all benefit from his expertise.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. And boy, I don't envy you today. What a interesting meeting, I must say.
No, I get to see all of these beautiful people out there.
That's what you get for the medium box.
You know, Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to think in the spirit of compromise. Maybe there's a way you could move forward with this motion, because I too think it's important. You know, in the Guide for Ministers on page 37, ministers and ministers of state are personally responsible for the conduct and operations of their offices. I think it'd be important for Mr. Walsh to confirm this, that is in fact the truth. So I definitely would like to hear that. But can I propose a friendly amendment? And that amendment would be a bridging of the two, that we have both Mr. Walsh and Mr. Baird appear at the same time?
At the same time?
Yes. I think in the spirit of compromise, that would I would think in this situation you would have an expert with Mr. Walsh, and you'd also have an expert with Mr.
We
Baird.
have propaganda from the minister. We want experts who know Parliament.
I'm a former government house leader.
And we want
I know.
I
Chief government
think
it's parliamentary secretary to the House Leader, deputy House Leader, government and opposition.
Order. The motion before us, proposed by Madam Freeman, was that the committee invite the law clerk, and this is the important part, to explain the consequences of the witness's failure to appear before the committee. Okay? It is from the law clerk, and it really is what happens, how serious is it, criminal issues, there's civil law involved here, there's parliamentary rules, practices, procedures. Mr. Polyev had made an amendment that Mr. Baird appear in lieu of Mr. Walsh, a substitute. We had some debate. The members voted, and it was defeated, in that the committee has taken a decision that it does not want to hear from Mr. Baird to explain the consequences of a witness's failure to appear before the committee. They've taken that decision. Accordingly, an amendment to Madam Freeman's motion to have Mr. Walsh and Mr. Baird is actually it's contradictory to the decision already taken by the committee, and therefore the amendment is out of order. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Did not want to give up Mr. Walsh. They did not want to lose the opportunity to have Mr. Walsh come forward, and that is why they voted against having Mr. Baird come individually. In this case, it would solve that. It would allow Mr. Walsh to come forward. Plus, it would actually allow Mr. Baird to come forward.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Plamondon, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll be very brief. The request to have Mr. Walsh appear, well, Mr. Walsh is not just an ordinary person. He is the law clerk. He is here to enlighten the committee and also to enlighten the House. There are 2 points of view that are being expressed here. It would be a great help for our democratic life in committee, and it could influence the House in its entirety if you were to appear. This is a turning point. The role of the committee is to try to find, and I've been here in Parliament for 25 years. I'm on this committee now, and the committee is, as always, trying to find the best possible specialists to enlighten the committee. It would seem that one of the best specialists to enlighten us on the consequences of the non-appearance of a witness is indeed Mr. Walsh. Not wanting to hear him amounts to not wanting to hear the truth, not wanting to hear the consequences of a given action, principally that of Mr. Sudas. Therefore, I wonder, how can we make an enlightened decision if we refuse to hear the witness who would be the most useful to us?
Well, no, just a question, Mr. Chair. I agree with what Mr. Plumondon said.
Okay. Madam Black?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You know, in the past 20 months that I have been on this committee, I have actually come to appreciate the work that we could do as a committee when we look at access to information, privacy, and ethics. And most recently, we had the interim Information Commissioner come and talk to us about proactive disclosure and possibly open government. And unfortunately, in the last few weeks, I've had to call others to fill in for me on this committee, only to come back and find that this committee actually has been frustrated in doing that very important work by several motions made by members of the opposition that we begin to look into allegations of blocked access to information. And I think the reason that we find ourselves here today, Mr. Chair, is that there's been an unwillingness by a number of members from the opposition to hear from our ministers. And we talk about...
Madam Black, I'm going to have to ask you please to bring yourself to the motion before us, which is to call the clerk, the law clerk, to advise the House, or advise the committee on consequences. Okay. This is... Okay. I appreciate your views, and you've expressed them several times before the committee, but now we need to do our work so that we can get to where you want to go. So okay. If you have any comments, any new information for the committee's consideration with regard to the Freeman motion, please.
Well, simply this, that we had encouraged the committee to consider all options when calling forward witnesses. It's apparent today that there's been an unwillingness to allow other witnesses to come forward that we would like to hear from, and so I will not be supporting Madam Freeman's motion.
Thank you. Madam Davidson, please.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate having the opportunity to speak to Madam Freeman's motion. And I want to say that I appreciate all the extra work that Madam Freeman has gone to. I know that she has researched this. I know that she has spoken many times with the law clerk. And I know that she is willing, or she is anxious to have us hear personally from him, to hear the things that she learned from him. But I know also that you have spoken with him, Mr. Chair, and I know that you have a very good grasp on the issue and what the legalities could be involved with this issue. And I think that having the law clerk, Mr. Walsh, come before this committee is something that isn't necessary, We have the information that that has been relayed to us by Madam Freeman and by yourself, Mr. Chair. We also have gone through a process that that has been less than congenial around this table, and I think that the time has come, whether we firmly believe in the ministerial responsibilities, and we know that there's been many issues in the past where past government have, there's been activities regarding ministerial staff, and those issues have been talked about around this table before during these hearings. So I think we need to move on. I think that to have the law clerk here is not necessary. I think that we've had the offer of the people here that can tell the story, can make the difference, and that is the ministers who are totally responsible. The ministerial responsibility is to Parliament. So I will not be supporting the motion from Madam Freeman, although I definitely do appreciate and, congratulate her for all of the hard work that she has done on this.
Thank you. Mr. Polyev, please.
I'm a great admirer of Mr. Walsh. Most of us are. In order to present my arguments on the specifics of this motion, I kindly ask the Chair kindly reread it, because we were not provided with paper copies. If you would just reread the motion, I will highlight the key words that give problems to this committee.
Mrs. Freeman moved that the committee invite the law clerk to explain the consequences of the witness's failure to appear before the committee.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And you have already
the
spoken
motion.
on this
No,
before,
I'm sorry. I have spoken on my amendment. The problem with the motion is that it presupposes a decision by Parliament. Any decision to impose consequences would be made by the House of Commons in its totality, not by this committee alone. There has been no determination by that chamber to sanction in any way, shape, or form any staff member of this government. Therefore, it would be improper to call a witness before the committee to explain the consequences of a decision that we have not decided as Parliament to render.
Just a moment, if I may, I would note that the motion does not mention any person's names. It says to explain the consequences of witnesses' failure to appear before the committee. Any witness, any study in any committee. It's the whole bank.
Mr. Chair?
The committee. This does not refer to any specific witnesses, and therefore cannot be read.
So can I just clarify? It's not linked necessarily then to the subject of the supposed non-appearance of these three people.
It is linked only from the standpoint that it's information that the member suggests the committee should hear, so that they can consider whether or not.
Okay, so it is linked then. It is linked then.
It is linked only from the standpoint that so they can understand the import of the draft motion that was and about the wording and why the wording is here. So in any event, but it does not presume any.
But is it, who does it refer to?
Just to correct, it does not presume a decision or speculate on a decision of the House. This is simply information about what happens and what are the range of possibilities if a witness does not appear before a committee when called.
Clearly, the motion is making reference to these three potential witnesses.
No.
Then you've just ruled that motion out of order.
No.
For a motion to be in order, it's now my speaking time.
No,
and I'm going to use it I'm going to use it in the following way.
Excuse me, Mr. Polyev, that's not the impact. You've made
Whose speaking time are you now taking, Chair?
There is no speaking time. It's unlimited, as you know. Members can speak as long as they want, as long as they maintain relevance.
This
is information that the member suggests we need to understand how serious the issue is.
All right.
Okay? It helps them to appreciate why we would have to report this. Okay? It is not to prejudge this, and it is not because we have no power to do that, and we're certainly not going to speculate on what the House might do. So don't suggest that the Freeman motion is out of order because it doesn't name these three people. It is information for the committee. That's what the motion does. I ruled it in order, and we've been debating it for an hour.
I'm on my speaking time now.
So,
thank you.
I will give you 4, but the chair will make decisions on whether or not it's in order, and it is in order. Okay?
Well, I think you've made 2 decisions. At the outset, you decided that it was linked to the subject at hand, and then you intervened spontaneously in the middle of my remarks to say that it was not linked to these 3 individuals.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. I'm going to move on now to Mr. 6A. You will not debate the chair.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
You will not debate
Point
the
of order,
chair.
Mr.
You
Chair.
will not question the decision of a chair, Mr.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
You don't? I'm sorry. I'm going to Mr. 6A. That's my decision.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that I'm absolutely confident in the position of this committee, and that I, for one, have no doubt that what we're proposing to do, given the fact that 3 witnesses have refused our invitations and refused to honor summonses to appear here, that it's perfectly appropriate for us to report that to the House of Commons. I have no need for further legal advice on that because I don't believe that there is any question of law that I need to have further information on. Now, it may well be that the government needs legal advice on the consequences of our action, or that the 3 individuals, Mr. Tonieri, Ms. Andrews, and Mr. Sudis, may need independent legal advice on the consequences of their action. But I don't need any further advice given what we're going to do, which is simply, and it's as plain as the nose on our face, to report that these 3 individuals refused our invitation, refused to appear, and even when they were summoned, refused to appear. Now, Chair, I hope there will be consequences, but it's not my job to determine that. The House will determine that after we've reported what actually took place, the facts of the situation. And that's the House's job, not mine. I don't need to be advised on those consequences in this context. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We've now heard from every member around the table, and so I'm going to put the question now in the Freeman motion. What? I've heard. We're getting repetition here. The chair has heard all of the arguments, and no, the chair is calling the question. I have decided that we've heard enough, we've had enough debate, and I want the question put now.
Mr. Easter?
Yes.
Madame Foster?
Yes.
Madame Freeman?
Yes.
Oui, elle a dit oui.
Oui. Monsieur Plamondon?
Oui.
Yes.
No. Monsieur Poilievre?
Abstain.
Madame Davidson?
Abstain.
Madame Bloch?
Abstain.
Mr. Baer?
Yes.
Mr. Hoback?
Yes.
The motion is carried, and the chair will attempt to have Mr. Walsh appear next Tuesday. We are now back on our agenda, and I would like to. We've had a little bit of discussion on the on this template. Mr. 6A had an editorial change, and I think that the committee should, as we understand, because of the other Freeman motion that was passed, that we could continue to consider the content of this. Should Mr. Sudis or Madam Andrews appear on Tuesday, that this report would have to be updated to reflect that. Should they not appear, either appear on Tuesday, then the motion of Madam Freeman is moot in that they did not appear, and we would go forward with this. So nothing would change. So I had on the commenting on the template that has been proposed, which is the factual summary of what has transpired to date, and I had on the list, before I get to you, I had on the list to speak to this Mr. Poliev, Mr. Easter, Mr. Baird, Madam Davidson, Mr. Sixay, and Madam Freeman. Okay, that's the list when we left this to go to those other motions. Now, Mr. Hoback, you had a point of order.
Yeah, please, Mr. Chair. I'm just was just listening to you about next Tuesday. How much time is going to be allocated to Mr. Walsh? The whole meeting, or just...
That is up to the committee. I will invite him to be our first order of business, so that the committee will have the benefit of what he tells us, and then we can consider a report, this report or any other report to the House, and instruct the chair whether or not the committee authorizes the chair to table it in the House, either on Wednesday or Thursday.
So I'll confirm he'll be the priority for the committee on Tuesday?
We have to start with, because the member wanted to hear so that she could make a good decision with regard to the main motion.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Poliev, did you want to speak on this document, or?
Yes. I'd like to begin by making an amendment.
Mr. Poliev, help me out here.
Yes, I will. The amendment's in order.
This isn't a motion.
It's a report.
No, it is a document that was drafted by the clerk to give us an idea of a template. This hasn't been moved by anybody, and since we don't have a motion or to adopt this,
so what are we doing with it? What are we doing with it?
I had asked for the input of the committee as to whether or not this template, this approach, and this language, specifically the last two sentences, would be whether the committee has
with some small changes,
consensus or whatever. So,
if you give me a chance,
Mr. Sixay, in his input at the last sentence of Mr. Tonieri, said he'd like to change the word "if" to "though," and it was just accepted.
I've got something similar.
So, we would enter, but I don't want motions to be debated.
No.
We're just having some input on whether or not we're going in the right direction. And if the members don't like this approach, would like something else, then I would expect that they would come forward with a recommendation.
That's what I'm about to do.
Carry on.
So I'll do exactly what you've just asked, to come forward with a recommended change. And I would also just indicate that you might like it or you might not like it, but the committee, of course, is the master of its own domain. And the changes that I recommend are the following. On the second last sentence, delete the words "of privilege has occurred" and replace them with "of parliamentary tradition." And then after the word "committee," delete the words "has reason to believe that a potential" and replace them with "finds itself in." Yes, I'll repeat that. The second last sentence, which currently reads, "In light of this matter, the committee has reason to believe that a potential breach of privilege has occurred." My proposed amendment is to delete the words "has reason to believe that a potential," take that out, and replace it with "finds itself in." After the word "of," delete the words "privilege has occurred" and replace them with "parliamentary tradition."
Mr.
So the sentence
Paul,
would now
just read the sentence that you want to replace this sentence with.
Sorry.
That would be really helpful. Please.
There's no reason to be impatient, Mr. Chair. In light of this matter...
There is actually, but okay. Carry on.
In light of this matter, the committee finds itself in breach of parliamentary tradition. Now, the rationale behind this amendment, Mr. Chair...
No, it's not an amendment, it's a suggestion.
The suggestion.
Yep.
Suggested amendment, is found on page 32, Chapter 1, entitled Parliamentary Institutions, which reads, "In terms of ministerial responsibility, ministers have both individual and collective responsibilities to Parliament. The individual or personal responsibility of the minister derives from a time when in practice, and not just in theory, the Crown governed. Ministers merely advised the sovereign and were responsible to the sovereign for their advice. The principle of individual ministerial responsibility holds that ministers are accountable not only for their own actions as department heads, but also for the actions of their subordinates. Individual ministerial responsibility provides the basis for accountability throughout the system. Virtually all departmental activity is carried out in the name of the minister, who in turn is responsible to Parliament for those acts. Ministers exercise power and are constitutionally responsible for the provision and conduct of government. Parliament holds them personally responsible for it."
Order. Mr. Polyev.
I'll just conclude by saying,
Mr. Polyev,
by targeting these staff members, the committee is itself in violation and breach of parliamentary tradition, and I think it is now appropriate the committee finds so much and report it to the House of Commons.
All right. You have...
I gather that you don't like the arguments that I'm making, Mr. Chair, and that is unfortunate. I will continue to work to convince you.
This is, you've had your say, sir. Mr. Easter, and then Mr. Baird.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I do think that the template will be helpful if we have to make the decision. In terms of the summonses that are out on two individuals if they do not show by Wednesday. But I'd just like to, on a couple of points on Mr. Polyev, where they talk about ministerial responsibility, and yes, it is ministerial responsibilities very key to Parliament. But, Mr. Chair, I think we understand our job at committee is to establish some facts in terms of this particular issue. And if you're going to establish some facts, then you need to talk to the people that are actually involved in the process. And we've seen how important that was when we had Mr. Togneri here. If you recall, and I don't have the minutes in front of me, but if you recall, he went back and said, "I made a stupid mistake." He admitted that he made a stupid mistake, and he also named Gillian Andrews as one of the ones he had turned over the information to. And that is getting at the individuals that are involved that have the information. That's what's important. That's what our committee is all about. Now, in terms of I'm on that, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I'm hearing the word relevance over here, Mr. Easter. A review of testimony is one thing, but this document is, we're trying to find out whether or not we're going forward with this. We need some input from the members, and I hope that you will get there. Okay?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Because, you know, where I'm getting to is what I believe our authority as a committee is in terms of our right to deal with this issue. That's the whole argument coming forward from the Minister Baird and Parliamentary Secretary Mr. Polyev. I do question sometimes, you know, why we would have the Minister of Transport trying to come before a committee to represent Mr. Sudas, who works for the Prime Minister's office, when Mr. Poilievre is the parliamentary secretary, and I would think would be in a better position to know what Mr. Sudas does than does the Minister of Transport. In any event, as I said at an earlier meeting, Mr. Chair, that Jay Hill, or Mr. Hill, the Leader of the Government in the House of Commons, said we recognize that committees do have the authority to call for persons and papers. We do have that authority, and that's what this hearing is all about. Mr. Baird tried to come here and spin the government line. I'm saying here what our rights really are as a committee. And the other point, last point I want to make is that you know, the individual who's supposed to be here today. There's much made of ministerial staff that is young and inexperienced. Well, Mr. Sudas, who has been, as you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, can't be found. He's in hiding somewhere in Longevin Block. Okay. But yes, and I think the minister makes the minister makes the point.
Thank you, Mr.
That while he can't be served with the summons, can't be found for that, he still is on CBC, on Power Play, on some of the other programs. He speaks far more than any of the cabinet ministers do. Yet he's in hiding. And Minister Baird speaks a lot, but sometimes he doesn't make much sense. But in any event, Mr. Chair, with that little overview that I think the template is important, I would move that we adjourn.
Not debatable. Vote put it right away. Call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Easter?
Yes.
Madame Foote?
Yes.
Madame Freeman?
Yes.
Monsieur Plamondon?
Yes.
Mr. Sixé?
No.
Monsieur Poilievre?
Yes.
Madame Davidson?
Yes.
Madame Bloch?
Yes.
Mr. Baird?
Yes.
Mr. Hoback?
The motion is carried. We are adjourned.